Good morning for WGRV. This is Reid Seals. I'm here with Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for our monthly interview. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Reid.
First question, why are the positions of county attorney and tax attorney separate? Would it save money to combine them?
Well, the tax attorney, by Tennessee Code Annotated state law, essentially says that they are appointed by or selected by the county trustee. In our case, that happens to be Nathan Holt. And then I'm given the power by state law to advise and consent, much like the Senate does for the president with Supreme Court justices. The reason they're separate, I believe, is we most recently have a full-time attorney in Roger Woolsey, and then the tax attorney has been for several years Bill Nunley. He also does the work, or that type of work, for the city as well. Would it save money to combine the two positions? That's probably up for debate. One of the reasons that I would probably not want those positions combined. Our county attorney, number one, has a tremendous workload with the increased litigious society that we live in and the most recent spat of lawsuits that we have. So he has certainly got all on his plate that he can handle. And as far as he could potentially have, not saying that it would ever happen, but he could potentially have a conflict of interest and have to recuse himself from that, which would cause us to have to hire someone else. We routinely have that. We have that, for instance, ongoing with the Clerk and Master lawsuit, because he has a conflict of interest and has to represent the county as well as the Clerk and Master. Then we had to hire outside attorneys. So anytime that you do that, then that causes extra work, extra money to be spent, that sort of thing, as well as the fact that given the workload that the tax attorney has, we would have to hire another employee. We might potentially get away with a part-time person, but more likely a full-time person to do this job. And so for the commission, or the money that we pay out as a contractor, if you will, Bill does a great job. He's very efficient. He's done it for years. There's no learning curve with him. And in my view, it's probably a wash between what we would pay and what we're paying him.
Okay, now explain the whole special commissioner position and why they get paid extra.
Well, the Tennessee Code Annotated allows the chancellor, in this case, to appoint special commissioners to do what's deemed extraordinary work. Now, it's work that's above and beyond what their job title is. And he could select anyone. In this case, with regard to the selling of property, he has selected the Clerk and Master to do this work. And because, again, of the appointment of a special commissioner, they're paid a premium or a commission. It'd be the same thing if you were appointed, for instance, to be a special commissioner. You would be paid a commission or a premium to do this work, to do the research, to do the legwork, to organize and do everything that's necessary to do, for instance, to sell this property. If you weren't compensated for doing that work, then chances are you wouldn't do it. It just happens to be that the Clerk and Master in this regard is named the special commissioner, and she gets a commission for doing this extraordinary work above and beyond her duties as Clerk and Master.
Okay, what is the process to eliminate the Clerk and Master position or change it to an elected position?
We considered a resolution submitted by Commissioner Robin Quillen last night to seek to have the Clerk and Master position as an elected position. The Tennessee Constitution essentially says that the chancellors will select their clerks. That's in the Constitution. So in my view, as well as a lot of others, it would take a change or an amendment to the Constitution to make that, for instance, an elected position. But so the resolution last night was pulled, but it may come up again in a slightly different form to request basically from the representatives Faison and Hawk, and then our state senator Sutherland, to initiate the process to begin to either amend the Constitution to have that position elected, or it would certainly take that to abolish the position altogether. So.
And now, would the people have to vote on that as well eventually if it's passed by the legislators in Nashville?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sometime about during the next governor's election would be, which is 2022. The people would be required to vote on it if the work at the state legislature were accomplished in that amount of time, which is highly unlikely.
So it might be even further down the line that they would vote on it if it was accomplished, but not in that timely period.
Yes, because you're dealing with a constitutional officer, again, specifically mentioned in the Constitution. The best example that I can give that people may remember that affected my family actually was that the school superintendent or the director of schools had been previously an elected position, and in 1996, when my father was elected as school superintendent, that position became an appointed position, and appointed by the school board. And of course, that upset people greatly. I think it still aggravates a great number of people in the fact that we have a major head of government that's not selected by the people. So it's not just the clerk and master position, for instance, that needs to be changed. That's actually in the Constitution and has been since Tennessee was a state. But the most recent change that is very similar, again, is the director of schools position.
Okay. Now, at the commission meeting on Monday, the commission voted on first reading to change the speed limit of a couple of roads.
Yes.
What is the process of changing the speed limit of a road?
Essentially, the process is, in this case, the two roads in question were upgraded and repaved, Walkertown Road and Bernard Road. And some years ago, in 2011 and 12, I think, I'd have to go back and look at that specifically to know what year exactly, but it was passed that countywide roads that had stripes, the posted speed limit or understood speed limit would be 45 miles an hour, and any unstriped road would be 30 miles an hour. But because of the upgrades, and these roads do have, or at least Walkertown Road does have striping, it was deemed by the highway department as well as the sheriff's office, and they have to go out and look at that actually to see if that is the case. 45 miles an hour on that road, it's curvy, was deemed to be too fast. So that information or that request was submitted to the Highway Committee. The Highway Committee considered it at the recommendation of the road superintendent. Then that was submitted as a resolution on first reading. It actually has to pass twice. So last night's reading was the first reading, and then next month we'll consider it again for a second reading. And then if it passes the second time, then the signs will be posted. So the Highway Department now has all of the equipment for signage. They have the computer, the sign making machine essentially, and they can do that in very short order and have those signs posted once it's passed.
And what is the county planning to do in the Santori lawsuit?
Well, to the extent that we entered into executive session last night to consider or to make the commissioners aware of the Santori lawsuit. Once the commissioners were apprised of the new lawsuit, then we came back into open session, and the commissioners decided that they would refer that to the insurance committee for further consideration on what would be done in the future. So the insurance committee meets next week, and it will be determined then as to whether we're going to, vigorously we most certainly will vigorously defend the lawsuit, and there actually may be a countersuit for some of the more bizarre, sort of colorful things that are included in the language. So,
if you could just give a quick rundown of what the lawsuit is as well.
The lawsuit essentially, my understanding, if you can get by some of the more bizarre, colorful adjectives that's used in the language of the lawsuit, is essentially saying that that the folly and circus of the proceedings from the lawsuit of the clerk and master have resulted in the needless expenditure and continuing needless expenditure of taxpayer dollars, and Mr. Santori is essentially, on behalf of the people that are footing the bill, asking for court relief, or essentially a cease and desist type thing, to comply with the order of the original lawsuit, which is Judge Rambo, to drop the appeal and move forward with the additional staffing.
Well, I want to thank Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for joining us this morning. Thank you, Kevin, and we will see you next month. This is Reid Seals for AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV.